world is a vampire, sent to drain, secret destroyers hold you up to the flame. And what do I get for my pain? Betrayed desire and a piece of the game.
What's up?
How's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me. It's an honor. It's a pleasure and an honor. And nerve-wracking.
Thanks for giving me some time to come on here. So just to get started, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself, some things that you do, what got you started in bodybuilding, and how you stumbled into posing, became a posing artist, and just some of the inspiration behind the art that you create now.
Okay. As you've seen, I bodybuild. Obviously, we all do that. I also compete. I'm trying to get my pro card, but that's been a tougher, longer process than I thought it would be. Sometimes you get in a role and you think, oh, this is going to go rather easily, or not easily, but nicely. But it's a very long and tough journey. And while chasing that dream, I think I kind of stumbled upon posing little by little. I even sent you a link to the first routine I did on stage. I thought that was fun to at least show you. Don't know if you're going to show it later, but it's a routine I did with a Michael Bublé song. So it was it was Feeling Good. Pretty well-known song, I think. It was a song I really liked at the time. I'm a very big fan of jazz and that kind of music, so I wanted something musical. But obviously the whole style wasn't as developed as it is now, and it's still developing. We're not yet near perfection either. Because you're taking on dancing, you're doing contemporary dance, you're doing all these things. So, and me too. I'm also practicing a little bit of flamenco now. You saw that in my last Instagram story. I took that upon me. It was very hard, actually. I thought it was going to be easier, but it's very hard. I don't know how to describe it. At least what I had to do was, it felt like very stiff square moves, and I thought it was much more free. But there are certain rules to it that are very hard to practice if you've not done it ever. But yeah, basically, I've rolled into posing just through competing. If you end up looking at the first routine I did, I think you can already see the musicality, because that was there. Obviously, the physique wasn't there, but the musicality was. But that comes from me also dancing here and there a little bit. Like me and my wife, we always dance Latin style, salsa, bachata, merengue, stuff like that. And then myself, I also did a little bit of break dancing, popping, stuff like that, street dance. Did it. Yeah, I did it in my living room. I did it with no one around. I never did a battle or anything, but I just did it by myself and just tried all that, practiced that, watched a ton of dancing programs. So You Think You Can Dance, stuff like that. The one in Holland, the one in America, watched all of that. So I'm very familiar with all the dancing styles. So I practiced here and there, and I think all of that has developed now into what is becoming my unique own style of posing, I think. But it's a very, very gradual thing. Yeah, super gradual.
So when you got started, so now, like you said, you're dabbling a little bit in flamenco, you're going to use things from that to bring in your style. That was a lot of the reason why I started taking contemporary dance, because in a couple of routines that I've done, people had asked me if I did contemporary or if I had a dance background in it, and I was like,
I asked
no.
the same thing to you. Remember when
Yeah,
we
and I was
first
like,
met?
no, I just watched YouTube, and then I found a couple things where I'm like, these look like maybe I could do this. But I think it's cool to like branch out. So I decided to finally start taking dance because it was something I always wanted to do. But when I was a little kid, I was too shy and like too self-conscious and nervous to do it. It's like my grandma offered to give me dance classes. Like she offered
I
to pay for
understand
them.
that, yeah.
Yeah, and like I didn't want to do it. I just told her I didn't want to. But like the reality was, is I was the same way. I was watching like Dancing with the Stars. I was watching like any video, like the Step Ups, Honey,
Oh,
Dirty
I've watched
Dancing.
all of them. I've watched all of them, yeah. All the step
Yeah,
ups.
like all of it, and I was obsessed with it. But I just never thought that like I could do it. And then now you fast forward like 20 plus years later, and now it's like 32 years old and just starting to actually like take up dance. So I have, it's like more of learning like how your body moves, so then you can throw elements of that into posing. But when you got started, did you have any, like, do you remember the time where like you saw somebody perform for the first time in a way where you're like, oh wow, like I want to do that?
Not really. No, I don't think. I mean, I've obviously watched like Lila Brada videos like that, but that actually came after that. Weirdly enough, I think the first really good, great routine I ever saw was obviously Terence Roffin's Survivor routine. I think that went viral, and that was like he really laid the groundwork now in this era. Where he showed that you can actually put on a show. It's not just doing the poses that everyone does. But that came after that. I just wanted to do something different. I guess I wanted
Okay.
to do, yeah. Well, like I said, I did the Feeling Good Michael Bublé song because at that time I just felt like that was something I needed to convey. I needed to have that song done. But now looking back at it, obviously I think it's terrible. But yeah, I think no, not really. No, just
Yeah,
just him, really.
I asked that because like I remember when I got started, so it was the same thing. Like you start competing in bodybuilding, you think you're gonna get your pro card faster than what you do. And it's like this evasive thing that it's like it wants to see how bad you want it, like how long you're willing to hold on.
Yeah,
And
it's
so I
crazy.
started out as a figure competitor because I loved the training. One of my professors in college was the one that actually brought up bodybuilding to me. I never really heard much of it. Like my best friend's dad did it when he was younger, so he had like the magazines. But even then, like I never really looked into it that much. I had a professor though that saw me training downstairs with the boys instead of like upstairs on the cardio equipment and like the lighter weights. And so he had approached me and asked, and that was what got my foot kind of into it, which was probably like 2011, 2012. And then I took a break for a long time and then finally came back 2019 and started competing in figure. And my thing was for the longest time, I would watch people do like the posing routines, but a lot of the ones that I had seen when I first started competing were like very cheesy. And like I didn't know about the golden era yet. I would just see people go up and like strike a pose, do something
Yeah,
kind of awkward, make a funny face, strike another pose. And I was like,
yeah. Likewise.
I was like, I can never do that. And then I think I was at Tampa. I was working a show. I was like 6 weeks out from one of mine, and I saw this woman, Janine, perform. And I remember watching her, and that was the first time I had seen a bodybuilder pose in such a way that it gave me goosebumps. And it wasn't like I was watching somebody just like go up and like be very blocky in their movements. Like she was very just graceful and fluid and packed with emotions. And I remember seeing her and I was like, oh, like that I could do. Like that's something that like I think is beautiful and I would like to do that. So I'm always curious if people were the same way, if it was like something that they fell into themselves, or if they saw something where they're like, oh, there's actually a lot more to this posing thing than I thought. There's a lot more that you can do with it. So that's why I asked that question. But I think it's pretty cool that
very
kind of
gradual, I guess.
yeah. So how long have you been competing for?
I looked it up today. I think it was 2018 as the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, 2018 was the first show. I've only done 4 because I was like, when I did the first one, I think I took like 2 or 3 years off to build on size because I was like, okay, I'll do that and then I'll do 2 shows and get my pro card. That was basically it. So I technically thought I was going to get my pro card in 3 shows total. But I was patient, right? I was patient. I thought, okay, I'm not going to go on stage this year again because I'm way too skinny. I'm way under class, whatever you want to call it. So I thought I'll just take my time. When we feel we're ready, we have a chance of going to pro in the classic division. We'll try it, and then we tried. We did win the I don't know how you rank it in the States, but we have like. They call it a CB and A class, and depending on what would you call it? I lost the name, but anyway, depending who you're with, they either call it CBA or novice and regional. Like I could do the regional, and I won regional, but then obviously after regional was pro qualifying there. I just didn't even make. I think it wasn't even third call out or something. That was terrible.
Yeah, it's like completely different.
Completely
levels.
different. Yeah. Completely different.
Yeah, it's the same way here. It's like we have local shows and then like I guess you don't really have like local regional or whatever. It's mostly like all the local and regional are kind of considered the same thing, but they all can qualify you for a national show, and that's where like the pro qualifiers are. But it's funny.
Yeah, see, they have a different name for it here.
Yeah. So you can go to a regional show and like you leave feeling really good because you're like, oh, like I got this. And then you show up to nationals. And I remember the amateur last year. Because when I worked with Kai, one of the things that he said was he mentioned like how diluted he seemed like the pro card is now because like they hand out so many. He was like, back in the day, you only
it
had
was way harder. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, you only had so many shows that you could qualify in, and then you had to be like number 1. There was no top 2 in your class. It was like you were the overall champion or whatever. So me being me, I heard him say that, and I'm like, okay, well then I want to do the amateur Olympia, and then I want to be like in the overall whatever. And we felt really good. Like the conditioning was there, like the posing was there. But then I showed up, and these girls from other countries, like, holy size. They had like 10 to 15 pounds of muscle on me. And I was just like, I'm about to get whooped all over again.
Same here. There were some German guys walking around, and I thought, how the hell did they make weight? But they did. Yeah. I think at one point I thought they were cheating the way they were like out of contact or something. Like, yeah, we're 5 kilos heavier, but just go ahead. That's what it felt like. Because it looks so huge. Even my wife, she's like, "You look tiny. You're not going to beat these guys." So yeah. Because I only had like half a kilo to play with max, I think. And these guys, they looked like they were twice my size, and I thought, okay, I don't know.
Well, what I think is awesome then is because you mentioned not being afraid to take time off, which I think a lot of competitors.
Doing the same thing now. Last time I competed was probably a year and a half ago already, if not 2.
Yeah. And like, I think that's a great thing to do. I think so many competitors go into a show and they get so hungry for the pro card that they keep competing over and over. And like,
you're just going to destroy yourself like that.
Yeah. They run their bodies into the ground. And then it's like, you don't realize that if you have to make improvements, like you need time off, not stage lean. But you need time off in order to develop that. But what I think is cool is that you're taking so much time off, but you're still making posing a really big priority in your life. So what are some of the things that you do? Like, I know you say you do some posing coaching now. What is posing, I guess, for you? Because obviously doing it as much as you do in an off season, like it's not just a stage thing.
No,
So
it isn't anymore. No, it used to be, but also because of you, you were the one that told me at one point, like, yeah, you can call yourself an artist and you should pose more, even during the off season. If you think you look fat, it doesn't really matter. Just pose because you can create something. And to the average person, we don't look fat at all anyway. So we look at it like that. Like, yeah, fat. Like even my wife, because she knows the conditioning we have to be on. At stage, we'll record a video and she'll be like, yeah, you look kind of fat. But that aside, I've finally gotten over it. Also, with a bit of your push to do it in the off season, and now I'm like, okay, I want to create more and more videos, and the quality of the videos, I want them to be like, studio worthy videos. Actually, I think the main example, the main video I saw that triggered me to want to do a video like that was, again, Terence Ruffin, the one he did with the lights around him. What was the song called?
Easter's Paradise routine, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was that song. Yeah, that one where you see him walking, you see his foot, and then he walks into the light, and he does a couple poses. And I saw that video, and I'm like, okay, I want to make something like that.
Yeah,
and that's when we did the first one in, I think, about a year's time after that.
Yeah, and I think it's cool too to do things like that, because one, like, people expect that they take all this time off in their off season from posing, and then it's like they're just going to be a posing master. And when it comes to like show season, and it's like you don't realize that it's like anything else. You have to put in all the different reps to get the flow down, or like your body still has to learn that muscle memory to move a certain way. But I think finding fun projects to do, like, it not only helps you and your creativity, but I also think it helps push you to stay in like better shape in your off season.
As well, yeah. Otherwise, you're too embarrassed to pick up the camera. Yeah. I'm actually doing a little cut now so I can do the flamenco routine I have planned. Because that's the reason I'm learning flamenco, is because I'm going to do a routine where she's an actual professional flamenco dancer. She's just going to dance flamenco. I'm going to pose, but I'm also going to have to do a little bit of flamenco together with her, and she's going to have to do a little bit of posing.
Oh,
so we're gonna go out our comfort zone for a little bit of the video, but mostly it will just be a man and a woman doing their own art, but blending it together in the best way possible.
That's so super cool.
Yeah, but bodybuilding / flamenco. That's what it's gonna be.
Yeah, that's super awesome, because I remember, I think it was an interview. I think Terence was doing an interview with Lee Labrada, and he talked about when he was learning his routines, he would do similar things.
Going to Spain. He went to Spain and got taught by a bullfighter for 6 months. I know that. For 6 months, so he could do that routine, which is still to this day his best routine ever made, and one of the best routines ever made in general.
Yep.
Right. I even actually the last time I competed, I added one of those moves in as the last move of my posing routine, and that posing routine got the best poser award as well. And I added one of the moves where he like stabs the ball at the end. He like gets on his toes, arms are like high above, and then he stabs the ball. I actually use that move of his in one of my routines. on show day, yeah.
See, I love that. And I think that's what I love most, is like when you have people like Lee, or you have people like Terence, or some of my friends.
Kai Green too, I mean.
Yeah, and then you have Kai, you have Jarek. I love it because they have this attitude. Like Jarek and I talked about this yesterday, but having like the infinite mindset toward posing, where like it no longer is about you. It's like you're just trying to create art, but then from that, it catches other people's eyes. And like you'll see people grab bits and pieces from things that they see other people do, and like continue to transform it and evolve it. And he was like, that's how he's like, that's how you keep the sport alive, or like that's how you let the art evolve into something bigger than what it currently is when you have the mindset that like, oh, these things aren't yours to keep. Like, no, like put this out there and then see what happens, like see what other people see what they do with it, and then watch it continue to grow. And one of the conversations that Kai and I had, he talked about this. I think he was the one that planted the seed in my head. I don't know if it's just because he saw me posing at such an early stage. So he was like, this is the time to tell her, because if you plant the seed when she's just starting, then like maybe this will kind of open up her horizon a little bit.
I did.
Yeah. But I remember him telling me that, that there was so much opportunity in the posing space and what it could evolve into. And he had given me this idea, and it's something that I'd love to do in like workshops kind of stuff. I've talked to Pete Hartwig about doing something with it too, like around the globe, but where you almost have a studio set up, like the dance videos that you see where they have people display like some choreography that they made up, and then they go through and teach everybody, and then everybody will take turns kind of performing it into a group or coming up with something similar. But he was like, you know, there's such an entertainment aspect that could grab people's attention beyond just those who compete in bodybuilding, but it can really grab a hold of like the spectators and show them like, oh, this is more than just a bunch of meatheads walking around on stage. Like this is like a beautiful art form, like something very, very fun to watch.
That's the most beautiful thing we can do, like try and get people who don't like bodybuilding or don't watch it at all to like what we do. I have some people at work. There's this woman, she's actually a high class chef, a pastry chef. She's huge in the Czech Republic. And she told me this a couple of times. She's like, I don't like bodybuilding at all. I don't really like it, but I like what you do. And that is something that's a huge compliment, but that also helps us, and keeping on going, I guess, as well.
Yeah. So for you, like I feel like you've been killing it lately. You've been putting out a lot of stuff. Like I saw you sent me a routine with like to bullet with butterfly wings, and I saw a lot of like interpretive stuff that you threw into that.
That's your fault. Yours, Kai's, and what's his name again? Jacob, you said?
Jacob, yeah.
Jacob, yeah. The three of you got me to do that.
It's such a good song. Like Tommy Prophet is one of those artists. Like he has so many. If you listen to his tracks, there's many good songs, to pull from. But I love to see what you're doing with it, and I think the video that you sent today that I wanted to show is your Spider-Man routine. Because again, the podcast that I started it, like the reason that I started it was because I wanted to show what all posing could be, like what all there is to do with it. When you really lean into it, how creative you can get with it, and how you can make really insanely cool content. That's just beautiful and entertaining. And I wanted a place to be able to bring in different people with different styles along different parts of their journeys, and just talk about like their own personal journey and some of the stuff they came up with. But you did something really, really different that I thought was so cool, which is the Spider-Man routine. But before I show it, can you tell me a little bit about like your inspiration for it, or what gave you this concept?
Well, as I mentioned that was the conversation we had before starting the video. It was the Spider-Verse movies. I mean, I'm a huge nerd. That's maybe another part of me. I won't go too deep into all that, but yeah, I collect figures. I play video games. I've been watching Dragon Ball ever since I was a child. I even skipped school to watch Dragon Ball. Like I would go out the house, wait for my mom to go back to work. I would hide somewhere, go back in just to be able to watch Dragon Ball. Right. That's also the reason I'm doing something this weekend to mourn the passing of Toriyama. He created Dragon Ball. He unfortunately passed away. That was very emotional. I was like, I have to do something for him. So those are all like the inspirational things, but the nerd side, yeah, I'm a huge Marvel fan. I've been to every movie since Iron Man in the cinema. It's just the thing I do. Even if the reviews are bad, I will go to the movie. I don't care. I need to see it. If it's Marvel, I need to be there. If it's DC, I need to be there. If it's any anime, I need to see it. I don't care. I'll be the judge of it. And there's always something very hype, nice, deep that I take out of it. And in this case, the Spider-Man routine, it was the two Spider-Man movies, the animated ones. One came out in 2000, I think it was 18 or 19, and one came out a year ago. It's Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. It's about a different version of Spider-Man, a younger one even, and he's Dominican, black and Dominican, so African Dominican American. Or how I don't know how would you call that? How you would call that, but it doesn't really matter. And his name's Miles, and it's his story basically. And in that movie, multiple Spider-Man universes come together. And it's just his story and all their stories, and what happens in the movie really is really touching, because to some people they see it as it's animated and they think it's just some child's movie, but it goes very deep into like parenting and just dealing with coming of age, dealing with obstacles, dealing with the secret identity, I don't know, all these things, being creative. And what whatever. My wife is saying something. Never mind. I get distracted very easily. So those movies, incredible as they are, they inspired me to do it, and they're just very artistic too. I think it has something for everyone. If you watch it as a kid, obviously you're going to get your mind blown away. If you love anime, you're going to get your mind blown away. But if you're an artist too, you're going to get your mind blown away just because of how it's animated and how beautiful some settings, scenes look. Some look like a picture you want to put on your wall, right? And then the struggles of him being a young superhero, all that. I think there's something for everyone in those movies that you can use to just keep going, I guess. And being the fans that we are, we went to see the second movie, I think 8 times in the cinema. And every time we went, we could focus on something different. And then as the credits rolled, there was this song, the one I used. And they did it with like, I think it was like a watercolor type acrylic painting. That's what it looks like, is how the credits roll and you see some scenes of the movie, but painted like that with that song. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, I need to do something with that song. One of these days, I need to utilize that aspect, the artistry. So there's plenty of things in there. I think what I'm trying to say is just watch it, watch them, and see what they do to you. Right? I've recommended it to everyone I know, even people that are like, no, I don't want to see an animated movie. No, I don't want to see Superman. I'm like, just go and watch it, because there's something in there for everyone. And,
all right.
It just hits deep. It hits deep.
Well, I love it. I'm going to pull it up. I think it's so cool because when I saw this, I think because you posted it on Instagram, right?
Yeah, I don't really have any other platform to post it on.
Yeah. So when I saw this, I was like, holy cow, like this is something completely different. So I wanted to share that. So I'm going to pull this up. So super cool, just to show a little bit of things that you can do when you're in an off season, when you're not necessarily getting ready for a show, but can still really.
Yeah, here I look kind of fat to our eyes.
Yeah, that's what we think, but anybody else that's gonna watch it's like, holy cow, that guy is buff.
Yeah. All right, see it.
fight. I don't feel like those that I'm dreaming. It's been more like God's got me feeling like it's over minds every beating. But I can't give up, I'm still fighting. I don't feel like those that I'm dreaming. It's been more like God's got me feeling
So cool.
like it's over.
Awesome interpretation.
Yeah.
That's just so cool.
I can't really get enough of it now. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
it's just like it takes you, it literally does. It literally takes you into like a completely different universe there for a second. And then there's so many classic poses that you put into it, and then there's so many like lyrics that match up with what you're doing in your transitions. And
yeah, I feel beaten. I just like, yeah, I'm beaten.
yeah,
Stuff like
so
that.
cool.
Yeah. That's probably the main thing I always try to do with when I'm posing is interpret the song, interpret the lyrics, and flow with the music. I
Yeah,
can't
I
just
think that
pick poses and just do them. No, they need to make sense. I need to interpret the song always. I can't not do that.
yeah, I think it just brings a completely different element too, because I've seen some really, really beautiful routines that are like in themselves, like they're a work of art. But when you see somebody, and I think Terrence does this quite a bit too, he seems to do
He
a pretty
does
good job
too.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like when you throw in that interpretation or you're matching up a certain pose with a lyric or a certain transition with the lyric, it's like now you're working with the song. Like the song's not just working for you, you're working for it. And then
Yeah,
together,
use it.
yeah, like it creates this even bigger story, like this even bigger masterpiece. Cause now like your body is just interpreting what the song's already saying. So it's like you're letting it build the story.
Or the way
for
you feel it as well.
But I really love that. I think that's so cool what you guys did. So
Well, shout out to J Design, JEISDSGN. That's how his Instagram is spelled. He also animated Pete Hartwig's Tango Roxanne, a piece of that.
oh, so
That's how I found
cool.
him, because I follow Pete and through you, and then I sometimes talk to Pete, and then I saw the version of Pete's. I think he did it in one of his shows. I don't know if it was a guest posing or it was him competing. He had the Roxanne song. Also, that's the reason I made my Roxanne version. I was like, hey, that's a great song too. Let's do it as well. But yeah, because I saw that Jason Ramirez, his name is, he animated that for him. He did like a black and white pencil drawn version of it. I immediately DM'd him, was like, hey, I have this routine. Can you make this into the actual Spider-Man of the movie? And he was like, yeah, I can do that. Let's do it. And then that's how that came to be. But it was actually through Pete, because Pete is in contact with the animator. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love too. What I love so much is seeing how everything is like coming full circle with
It
the
is,
friends. Yeah, with all the friends that I've made, like seeing everybody draw like inspirations. Like some of my friends like will have certain followers and then they'll share something I do, and then you see them come up with something, and then somebody else sees it and then they come up with something. And so it's really cool kind of being on like it's just cool to watch. Like it's cool to be in a point where like this person's a friend of mine, this person's a friend of mine. They don't even know each other, but they have like no idea how much influence they're having. It's especially cool too when like I see everybody go through like creative blocks.
We all do.
Yeah, or start feeling like, like maybe they don't inspire as much as they do. And then getting to be the one that's like, no. Like let me show you this. Like, wait a second, I got to send you this. And then they see it. And it's like, that actually came from you. Like, I know this person, I talked to this person. And the reason that they did that was because they saw something you did with this. And
Yeah.
like, that inspired that. So it's like, that's another one of the reasons why I like doing this podcast too, is because, I mean, like Pete's in Australia. You said you're Holland, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So now you have people in like the States, you have people in the UK, you have people in Holland, you have people in Australia, and like we all have the same love for posing. And here we all like pulling from each other, but like we love the same thing, and you're seeing really, really cool artwork come out of it.
Yeah, two of my routines have stuff from you and Pete and everybody else from our like group, as you may call it, because like the bullet one is, as I mentioned, that was you, Kai, and Jacob, and then the Roxanne routine I recently did. That's because I saw Pete Harwick do that, and then I put your pose, as I called it, the Robbie pose, in there. Like I have to throw that in there because there's a point in the song where he just shouts, and I'm like, oh, that's perfect. So that has like stuff from you and Pete. So I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of picking stuff up from you guys and giving it my own twist.
Yeah. But then like the crazy thing about it though is like, then not only are you picking up stuff from us, but like I'm picking up stuff from you guys, because lately I've been going through my own creative block, and then I see stuff that you guys are doing and I'm like, oh, that's a really cool move. Or even just concepts. Like sometimes, I don't know how you are, or like if you've went through this, but sometimes when you're flowing, like you get stuck. Like I feel like I need to go from one pose into another pose, and I forget that like I can just do whatever I want in between. Like I don't have to overthink it.
Yeah.
And I see you guys do it, and then when I see you guys do that, I'm like, oh, okay, like I can loosen up a little bit here. Like this is gonna look okay. Like they just did this. It was something very simple as far as just like putting their hands and their head down, and then they went up into another pose, and it was beautiful. So yeah, it's cool to be in something where like we're all like watching it grow in an artistic aspect, but then being able to see like all of us pulling from each other. I just think that's something that's super, super cool. I think it's only going to continue to grow as like the sport grows. And I think even just the art of posing itself, like in itself, is going to grow. But something else I wanted to ask you about was what do you feel like some of the biggest challenges as an artist you encounter?
Well, I guess the biggest one is always trying to come up with something new, right? Because you don't really want to copy paste old routines. You don't want it to look like you're always doing the same thing. You want to really create something new every single time. And I think that's just the hardest thing. And then that's for myself, obviously. And then obviously as I coach as well now, I'm running, you could say I'm building my business, Vision Posing. I'm even going to sponsor one of the shows that's coming up in May, so they can promote me more. And yeah, I have clients basically every week, and from even women, with women I'm doing figure, women's physique and women's bodybuilding, and men it's open bodybuilding, classic bodybuilding, and I do obviously all the mandatories and classic poses and all that, quarter turns. But then most of them, they obviously want a routine from me. They want me to choreograph a routine for them, and that's another huge challenge. Like, how do I make something for someone else with a song they choose and they feel that suits their body type perfectly? And that's even way harder, because like I'm already blocked trying to make something for myself and trying to not necessarily reinvent the wheel, but making something new, something different with a different emotion. But now I have to do it for someone else. And yeah, those two are the hardest things I have to deal with.
So what do you feel like, is there anything that you do to help you overcome that? Or like just to work through it? Like, is there anything that like you tell yourself? Is there is there anything that you do when you feel blocked or you feel so much pressure, I guess, that it makes it hard to create routines or do these things? Like, is there anything that you put in place or anything that's worked for you to help you get through that?
I think it differs. It really differs because sometimes it just has to do with the emotion. Sometimes it's the pose, right? If I'm choreographing something for a client, obviously, very easy example, right? Imagine they have a very underdeveloped back. I can't have them show the back on stage because it's only going to show the weak points. I need to show the strong points. Sometimes it's something as simple as that. Just, okay, what part of the physique try show? But sometimes it's the emotion, and I guess the emotion part is much harder. Sometimes I kind of force myself through it. I'll just listen to the song over and over again, and then certain point during that week, because I always give myself a week to choreograph a routine. It will come back. Sometimes I'll watch other stuff, like I'll watch Terrence, or I'll watch you, or I'll watch Kai, or I'll watch Lee, any of these great posers. But the funny thing is with that, if I watch someone else's routine, sometimes it will have a good effect. I'll be like, okay, I'll be inspired. I'll see some moves. I'm like, okay, I'm going to use that, give that my own twist, be inspired. And sometimes it will have the opposite effect. I'll see them pose, and I'll be like, shit, I can't pose. I'm terrible, right? I actually had that with Terrence's last routine, Hope. I think that's his best routine he's ever made. And the funny thing is, he did that in an hour and a half. It was a thing that just came up. He did it backstage because he was blocked for months.
Yeah,
right? The best poser in the world for us. He was blocked for months. We got blocked, a week or two. He got blocked for months, and he had to do it backstage at the Olympia, which is insane. That's why it was so good. But I saw that, and I thought it was the best thing I'd ever seen. I learned things from it. I picked things from it, and then after I watched it about 3 times, I was like, I felt worse about my own posing. I felt a lot worse. I'm like, I can't pose anymore. And then I just stopped thinking about posing for like 2 or 3 days. And I'm like, okay, I'll get over it. And then just threw myself back in there. So to answer your question, I think it really differs. I have to just sometimes force myself. Sometimes I have to watch other people. Sometimes I'll talk to you, right? Instagram, like, hey, how's this going? Yeah, I'm blocked. Oh, you're blocked. Oh, we're not blocked. Help each other out. Yeah, help each other out. And so it really differs. I don't know. It's just something you have to deal with. I don't know. There's not one certain thing that always takes me out of it. No, there isn't, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's funny because we've been talking about it. I've been pretty blocked for a while, and yeah, I get
But
what
isn't
you
it
mean.
sometimes that we think we're blocked, but we're not? Because I've seen you're saying you're blocked right now, but I see you post stuff, see you make stuff, I see you go to your classes. You don't look blocked to me. Don't you think that sometimes it's just us that we think we're blocked and we're not?
That could be like maybe it's like you said, like when you make something really, really good, and then you always want to try to get better. And so you might still make something that's really, really beautiful, but then from your own perspective, like maybe this is more what I'm going through then. Like from my own perspective, I'm like, oh, well, that's not that great. But then I have to remember, like it's not just my eyes that are watching. Like there's other people watching that's seen it at varying levels. So something to me that might look like, like this is meh. Like somebody else might look at it and be like, oh, like that's really cool. But I get what you say about watching other people, because I've been doing that lately. I've either I always look for things that people do that I really like. So like either watching you, Chris Barnett's another one. Like he's insane. And then like Killian out from Belgium.
Yeah.
I like the things that I love about you guys is how you constantly move, and it's like really simple movements, but you can tell like you're not overthinking them. And so a lot of times I'll get stuck in a certain position and I'm like, I don't know how to get from here to here. and then I'll watch one of your guys' videos and be like, oh, it's simple. They literally just turned around. Like that was all I had to do.
That's how I write it down. I was just like, now turn around. And then I never write how, I just try it a different way. I'll
That's
just
a good
try like,
idea.
okay, I'll turn around my arms low, I'll turn around my arms high, I'll throw myself around, I will kind of do it slow. I don't know, just try.
I think that's a good idea too, is writing down like do this, but not putting the how.
Not specifically, no, just say turn around or kneel or get up. Only the pace. I always write down like get up fast or get up slow. That's the only thing I might change. But yeah, get up fast, get up slow, turn around fast, turn around slow. And I never write down how, and I just try it. Obviously, I record myself. I never use any mirrors. I just do it, record myself, and then rewatch it. And then I can see if I'm moving well or not. I don't think I've looked in the mirror for the last 4.5 years. I don't use them at all. I don't have anyone use them. But yeah, like that, I'll just write down, okay, now I have to turn around, and then I'll record myself doing that. And if I like the way I somehow did it, then obviously I'll remember how to do it that way for that specific routine.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I might try that.
Just watch yourself, yeah.
You might get a message from me with like notes and be like, okay, so I tried this method to see if it worked. And
yeah, just
like,
try
we'll
it.
see what happens.
Yeah.
So what is the community like over in Holland as far as bodybuilding and posing? Like, is it something that's big? Is it small? Is it growing?
The community is actually pretty big, I think, now. There's plenty of shows. There was an official pro qualifier in Holland. I think now there's a big expo coming as well to Holland.
Yeah.
In 2 or 3 months. It's technically like the one in Germany, but in Holland. What's the German one called again? FIBO, right? There's like a Dutch FIBO coming. So it's growing. It's just that posing aspect. People want to do it, but just don't know how, and they don't invest the time in it. And there's not enough posing coaches that really know their stuff. They just know the basic, and they all do the same stuff, and they all make the same mistakes, unfortunately, too.
Yeah.
So they're very stuck. Posing wise is terrible, unfortunately, but bodybuilding wise, it's growing. It's growing a lot. Yeah.
Which I think that's I feel like it's kind of like the trajectory. I feel like bodybuilding grows first, and then it's like it takes like a few people to really get invested in the posing thing, and then once people start seeing that on stage, they're like, okay, now I want to do that too. Like, I've got this bodybuilding piece down, but I really need to learn how to pose better, or I want to actually like put on more of a show. Like, that was really awesome.
Yeah, I think that is starting to catch on a little bit. Like, since Classic Physique came out, and then since real artists came out and started making shows instead of just a routine, right? And there's a few people that want to invest the time and the money and the energy into actually creating a show, because they want to make their experience on the stage unforgettable. And some, I've even had clients that said, I don't care about first place, but I do want to win the best poser award.
Yeah.
They didn't even care about first place. And then now up until now, all the clients I've had that I've done routines for, they've somehow won the best poser awards, all of them, when they were there, when they were given. Yeah, I don't want to sound too arrogant, but yeah, they put in their work. They do it right. They put in a huge amount of work, and they managed it. And then they'll call me. The show is over, and then they'll call me. I'll pick up the phone. Hey, what's up? Well, I won the best poser award. How about your placing? Yeah, placed third. But I don't really care.
Like, I won the best poser award.
They won that, and they were so excited about that. So the guys that come to me, the men and women that come to me, they really want to put on a show. They really want to leave a piece of themselves on that stage. And they don't just want to show off their muscles, because, that's very superficial. But they want to put something from their own life, whatever, on that stage. Like right now, I'm working with a client. He's actually a what do you call it? gynecologist. Yeah. And he's gonna take on classic physique. He just wants to do it for the experience. He wants to do a show because it's a goal he's set. And the reason he wants to do a routine, he's already learned it, so he's ready. Now he just needs to fine tune it, practice. But the song he chose was a song called "Man on a Mission," and the reason he chose that song with the lyrics it has is because he had cancer a while ago, and he had to deal with that, and he had to overcome the sickness. He was like super skinny, like 45, 50 kilograms. Right now he's probably around 70, 80. I think he's put on, he's healthy now. And he said, I want the routine to show that struggle in my life, like a man on a mission, and I've actually set goals and I've beaten that sickness, and now I'm on a stage and I'm showing a healthy, strong physique. So that's the story behind the routine. And that's those are the kind of people that approach me. They're like, I want you to choreograph a routine for me because they feel like I can do that for them. And as I mentioned before, sometimes that's super hard, but that also gives me the motivation to actually do it for them, because these stories are so deep. The reason they want to do these routines are so deep, they're so intertwined with their lives that, that also on certain aspect makes it easy for me to make it for them, because it's like, okay, I just have to tell this story, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's fun, right? I have another client, he's got a Star Wars routine, and I have a lot of Star Wars references in there. Like he ends up dying through a lightsaber stab. He takes him out. He has like the force choke that Darth Vader does, right? That's fun, but it's something that he loves. Yeah. And he wants to show that on stage. I'm like, okay, let's go. And that's easier, but it's also something that is from his youth. It's taken him through his life, and so it's also intertwined with him, I guess.
I love that. It's so inspirational. I try to tell people, if they approach me with wanting a routine, to give me a story, like give me a song that means something, not necessarily something that's just like, oh, like I like this song, but like something that represents, represents the deeper part of your life, because you're gonna dig into it at that point, and like that shows on stage. Like people can sense that. But no, I love that. I need to find that guy's Instagram, because I think that would help me for all the stuff going on right now.
Obviously, yeah.
And it sounds like he had a way harder heck of a time than what I did. So
I wouldn't necessarily call it harder. I think everyone, right? I think that's very what do you call it? Subjective, right? The hardships we go through, right? And if you're religious, religious people will say, God doesn't challenge you beyond what you are able to. Well, how does it go?
So people,
you're able to handle, right? And I think that don't you shouldn't compare your hardship to someone else, because if you deal with it and it's hard for you, then if you manage to get through, that's good enough, right? Some people can handle harder stuff than others, but what you go through is what you need to go through, and just make sure you get through it. There is no harder or less hard. I think it's very subjective.
That's good. I like that. The only thing with that, because I'm a spiritual person, Christian based. The thing that my mom and I started caveating, I think after she got diagnosed with cancer, like her and I had talked about this, but we're like, oh no, like he definitely gives you more than you can handle, because like if you could handle it, there was no need for him to step into the whole process. So it's like he'll give you that and then a little bit more, just to really bend you a bit. But no, I do agree with that. I do agree with everything that you said there, that we can't compare the things that we're going through. So one of the last things that I'll ask people when they come on here is, what do they feel like is missing in the posing community, or what do they think could be something that could really take the posing community to another level? And what do we need to do to make that happen?
Right. Okay. What aspect? Do you mean the creative aspect or just the technical aspect?
I'd say the creative aspect.
I think we just need to dare more. I think to be able to don't be afraid to like even embarrass yourself, try stuff, inspire each other. Right? I think sometimes you mentioned that once, that some people think they're stealing ideas from others, but we're not. We're just taking something that someone has done, making it our own stuff. And besides, I don't think there are any poses we can invent anymore. There's so many. If you go back, right?
They're all made.
They're all made. There's no pose you can really invent. I'm sure that even the ones we think we've invented, they're not invented, right? We have some funny ones. Like I think we both do this one where we like cover our face like that. I wrote it down as like a vampire pose because I did it in that butterfly one, and at that time he actually says the world is a vampire, and I'm like, okay, I've got like claws type thing. I don't know, but I'm sure someone in the 50s has done that, right? Maybe it's not documented, but someone has done it. There's nothing we can invent. So I think the main thing we need to do as physique artists, posers, is just try and inspire each other. And not be afraid to even embarrass it ourselves, right? Just dare to try and combine things. I'm mixing anime with superhero stuff, with flamenco, with even a bit of contemporary and street dance. I'm mixing all that into interpreting songs through posing, but that can be very uncomfortable sometimes. I think it's funny mentioning when I did what I called your pose, the Robbie pose, where you have your hands here, right? And then you always do, I think you've done it in every single routine you've done, but you always do it a different way, and you do it on the right part of the song. I did it in my Roxanne one, and I had to do that and shout and look up. My wife was recording me. It was just me and my wife. She was recording me. And I was embarrassed to do it. Right? I was there and I was like, I kind of feel awkward. I actually wanted to shout because then you would see the rawness of it. Eventually I didn't do it, but fortunately on camera it doesn't really show that much. But I'm sure if I actually would have shouted, it would have made that part of the routine even better. But I was slightly embarrassed because I was like, it feels weird. I'm here with my wife. Why do I need to shout? Why do I need to do that? I'm going to put music over it anyway. No one's going to hear me. So that bit of embarrassment, I think we just need to get over, and especially if you're preparing for a show and you want to do a routine on your competition show, right? Again, the fear, the embarrassment. If you want to do a routine that's super nerdy or super happy or super sad, just do it because that's who you are. Interpret who you are, tell your story. However hard or embarrassing or funny or it may be, I think, just go out of your comfort zone, dare, and be creative, yeah. And if we can help each other out. Don't be too either proud or proud to show someone, or be afraid you're stealing something because you're not. I guess.
Yeah, I like that. Something that I would like to see, I'm curious what you think. But I brought this up to some friends a year ago, and then Jarek actually brought this up yesterday. So I got really excited. Like, I think you can see it on the podcast when he starts bringing it up. I'm like,
okay.
Because it was the first time I heard somebody, I think, like currently in the pro league bring it up. But having something competition based, but instead of it being like your conventional bodybuilding, doing something that's more posing related. So like people still have to come in conditioned, but having a competition where people are actually showcasing like the art of posing, rather than just using posing to showcase their physique. And then you can like branch it from there. Whether I know back, I think in like the 80s, they used to do doubles competitions.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
Yeah, like I'm dying to get a doubles division back. I think that would be the coolest thing ever. But have a
Who would you do it with? Out of all the people you know, who would you do it with? Well, I don't want to put anyone on the spot. Don't answer it. I was like,
yeah, I don't know, because I've had so much fun. I honestly think
it should be Pete probably, right? Because I think you two like blend well. You've already done this whole posing trip.
Yeah,
that would be a very good partner, I think, for you to do that.
Yeah, so him and I made a routine. I'm waiting to see, like, so we got it filmed. He was creating like his new ebook that's supposed to come out here soon. But the company that filmed it, they also filmed a routine that him and I created the last weekend that I was there. And like we had so much fun. Like what was funny was the 2 weeks that I was there, like we were both still very just kind of like in our own little box. It's like we were like in each other's space, but still kind of like afraid to like open up to each other. Yeah. And I think we were both like so dieted and just tired. Yeah. Because he was trying to be pretty much show lean for his recording. Yeah. So like we were kind of like bumping, it's like kind of like bumping elbows and stuff like the whole entire trip. Like we were having a good time, but like there was still like there was something there where we're both just like, I don't want to fully like open up. And when we finally built a routine together, that barrier just, it lifted. We started creating together, and it was so fun because like every time one of us got stuck, the other person was there to be like, oh, I just saw something, let's try this. And we ended up putting together a routine that looked like we'd been rehearsing for months. I think we put it together in an hour and a half, and then we rehearsed it like 3 hours maybe the next day before we went in to film it. And it was cool. I remember when we did it, the film crew was like, what was that? And like we had fun. Like I threw some of like my dance combos in. Like he threw a backflip in.
What?
Yeah. Okay. Like we were posing like very similar at different levels. Then we were just mirroring each other. Like we had everything in there. And I think it was like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And it was like we put in so much, but it was like just enough. And it was so cool. And like him and I have even talked about maybe doing workshops where we challenge people not to just create routines, but like create something together. Huh. So one of the things him and I had discussed a little bit was finding people like you or like my buddy Sammy in the UK, like people who have established coaching businesses in different parts of the world, and teaming up with them and like traveling there and creating something together as like the group of us. And then presenting that to people and showing them our process of how we built it. And then have people like have a couple song choices that people can pick from, and then make people draw names. So like they can't just pick like their buddy that they showed up with. Like they have to learn to create with other people, and then have like a showcase of like what they came up with. Give them like a 45-second, like 30 to 60-second, whatever. Just because a lot of them, if they're newer and you've never made a routine, like 60 seconds doesn't sound that long, but it's
it is
ever. But we've talked about doing stuff like that, like maybe me flying back out to Australia and doing something in like Sydney or the Gold Coast, and then him coming here and us finding some places to do it in the States if we found people that were like open to the idea of it. But we had talked about that too, just to not only build like the community and teach the creative aspect more, but then to also be able to showcase like, look guys, like there is so much we can do here that we've just not even tapped into.
No, yeah.
So I don't know what you would think about that idea.
Yeah, I'm
so
down.
Yeah, so far most people's like, oh, that's actually like that's a kind of cool, like that's kind of a dope idea.
It is.
Um,
Yeah.
so we'll see. But
How long did it actually take you to make that routine with Kai and Jacob? Because you said this one was like an hour and a half and you did it.
so that one, I think we went out 3 weekends. So he flew out 3
Okay.
weekends. I had my individual part pretty much already done. Jacob's pretty good at just kind of freestyling stuff. So he freestyled his and figured out his choreography.
Okay.
And then I think Kai took about an hour. We'd like replay it and then just watch him like free flow and kind of figure out what he liked. So I think that took like a weekend, or that took like a day. We went back in the next day. We figured out the part with us as a group. And we did that pretty much collectively. Like it was pretty much split.
Wow.
And then we went back to our homes, practiced our parts, and came up with our own freestyle for the ending. Because then after he like does the gun trigger
The gun thing, yeah.
trigger pull, yeah, it was like just
Everyone
a free
goes
for all.
that way, yeah. At the
Yeah.
same time, but yeah.
Yeah, and that was like exactly how we wanted it. So I think it took us 2 weekends to put together, and then I think we filmed it on the third one.
Wow.
So
Yeah, that's a decent amount of work as well.
yeah, but it was a lot of fun. But I think I personally have more fun working with other people than I do even just making stuff by myself.
Okay. Why is that?
I think it's just because the difference. So like when I worked with Pete, very different style. Kai and Jacob, very different styles. So anytime I work with them and we start pulling and like morphing our styles together, it just ends up being this really cool dynamic. So then
Yeah.
I always learn something from it. They seem to get something from it. And then you come up with a product where you can see like all the personalities at the same time. And I think it's fun. I think it adds like an extra layer to posing and creativity. It's like the two minds are better than one kind of deal. But
I only had my first experience with the flamenco dance, but that's still in process. Now I'm just learning flamenco, and then we haven't worked on a choreography yet.
I think
Although
it will come
I do
together.
feel it will be easy because, like, the first 20 seconds we've already figured out. Super easy. I mean, with just lights on, I'll just be doing. I'll just need to hold one pose, and she can start dancing around me. Super easy. And then we just go from there. So I do think it will probably be easier, but it's just getting the time to get together. She's very busy. She flies off to Turkey. She's from Turkey. She flies off to Turkey a lot of the time, and we have postponed a couple of weekends, unfortunately. So that's the hardest part of working with someone, I guess, in our case. But I think putting the choreography together eventually will, by the looks of it now, I was stressing a lot about it. By the looks of it now, it'll probably be easy. I hope.
Yeah, I think it's gonna turn out really, really cool. I'm excited to see it. I've got I've been trying to put the bug in the ear of my dance instructor of doing something together. And
Or
so
just get one of your classmates to do it. If she can't, then get someone else who dances.
I guess that's fair too.
Yeah.
I even think about that either, but that would be really fun. But anyway, thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to.
No, thank you, because you're the one putting all this together.
Yeah.
Why did you start doing this podcast? Like, because it's your own time, your own energy. You're going after all of us. Like, hey, you'll find the time to fish all of us together, and yeah.
So it's because I have in my head, I do have like a bigger vision of what posing could be. and what it could turn into. But I think in order for it to happen, there needs to be a lot more connections made, and a lot more people need to see kind of proof of what all you can create and what all you can experience through posing. So kind of like long term, there's some stuff I want to do. I'll tell you after. But yeah. But I did it as a place where people could come listen to people from other parts of the world who have different experiences, different styles of posing, kind of show a little bit of what other people are doing, and then hopefully to gain some traction with it. So then maybe if they don't necessarily like what I do, maybe they'll see somebody on here and be like, oh, I can resonate with that. I relate to that. So in a way, it kind of helps all of us grow, because we can throw ideas together. If some of us are stuck, like maybe something gets said on here that either helps me or helps you or helps whoever's listening. To me, I felt like it was the first thing that I could do and could afford to do to get where I could see all of this stuff going in the future.
Wow. Wow, it's insane. It's insane. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I mean, all I had to do was just sit down here and just answer some of your questions. I hope I answered them okay, because I do have I have ADD, so it's very hard for me to like answer a question and actually answer the question. Like my colleagues will tell me, if you ask Henri something, he'll tell you a story. You ask him a question and he tells you a story.
My boyfriend's the same way, so I'm used to that. It's nothing new.
So I hope there's something in this hour so that you can actually use.
Oh no, definitely.
Too all over the place, you know.
Definitely.
Okay.
Well, thanks again, man, for coming on here. If you want to share where people can find you, just if they want to see any of your stuff, or even if they want to hit you up for posing, because again, like anything else, sometimes maybe I'm not the best fit as a posing coach. Like maybe there's something you did or your style that they really liked. So how could they find you?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Some people were looking for a certain style, and I seem to have a style that some people want. You have a style that other people might like. But yeah, they can find me. For now, it's very simple, just on Instagram. I actually changed my Instagram name to my actual to the name of, yeah, you can call it company, whatever. But yeah, Vision Posing. But you can also find me under my name, because I have that on underneath. Because Instagram works like that, right? You can have like the display name and then the at name. Yeah. So the at name is Vision Posing, and then the display name is Henri Bobby van Hooydonk. All tied together. Dutch name, yeah, whatever. If you fill in Henri Bobby, I'm sure I'll pop up. Okay. And yeah, I also have an email now that I made. It's visionposing@gmail.com. You can also hit me up through there if you need posing coaching, either with like mandatories, quarter turns, all that stuff. And obviously, if you want me to make a tailor-made choreographed routine for you, then I can also do that. And as I mentioned before, the divisions I teach are in men's is classic physique and open bodybuilding, and women is figure, women's physique and women's bodybuilding.
Perfect.
So there
you go. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and close this episode up. Thanks to anybody who ends up watching. And yeah, this is Breaking Boundaries. We'll see you next time.